What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So yeah, I alluded to the fact that I was going to review this just because I kind of wanted to give this band another shot just because they're so fucking weird. So yeah, I'm going to go over the latest offering from Imperial Triumphant, Spirit of Ecstasy. I don't think they're talking about the emotion. I think they're talking about the drugs because this is fucking weird. Anyway, more on that. This comes out also on the 22nd of July on Century Media. This band was formed / maybe summoned in New York City in 2005. This is their 5th album overall. My exposure to them is very limited. Like, I've jammed a fair amount of the tracks on their last album, Alphaville, which that was fucking weird too. Get ready for more of that. Looking into their background, I guess they started off as neoclassical black metal and at some point just said fuck that and got really weird. So now they are described as avant-garde blackened death metal, and that's almost not enough. Like, there's so many different ways to describe this. It is such a strange fucking album / band. And yeah, I dove head first into this, and yeah, this is gonna be a fun review. This is yeah. I mean, what did I expect? This band literally looks like the house band for the fuck party and Eyes Wide Shut. So yeah, it was bound to be weird. So what we have here is a merger of black metal, death metal, jazz, noise, I guess avant-garde metal in general, maybe even some cinematic scores. This is just fucking strange. Definitely in that realm of bands like Portal and Ad Nauseum. Maybe more listenable? I don't know. This is, again, such a strange album. Like, all the riffs are very atonal. The opening track, Chump Change, just pretty much gets right into it with these just dissonant riffs that don't seem to make a lot of sense, but seriously impressive drumming. Holy shit, the drum work on this entire album is flat out fucking amazing. This dude is like channeling Pete Sandoval and fucking Buddy Rich at the same time. And just flat out insane bass work too. Like, the musicianship is next level. They just don't give a shit if you like it or not. They're gonna play what they're gonna play, which props to them. But man, the bass work is dizzying at times. Just playing these wild scales, and it's just ascending and descending, and you know, you get like jazzy sections, and it's just fucking nuts. And when it comes down to like the composition, the structure of the songs, it just feels like there's no fucking rules. Like, they literally just do whatever the hell they want and incorporate as many elements as they want. And I mean, props to them for being pretty damn original here. But man, it is hard to fucking latch onto. The production is weird and murky. Like, it feels like the vocals will come at you from different spaces in the room, which adds to the head fuck sort of feel of this entire album. The guitars are murky. The tone is ugly. The bass is very up in the mix, but I don't know, like, it's hard to distinguish what they're playing, but they're playing it so damn fast. And then you have all the additional stuff. There are strings. There are, like, orchestral sections that sound like the score to a Hitchcock movie. Tower of Glory, City of Shame, and Mercurius Gilded both open up with, again, like a very Hitchcock, like, 60s horror movie / I don't know, like, weird underground film. Like, a lot of this, strangely enough, reminded me of the movie Equinox from 1970, which is just a strange horror sci-fi, I don't know, like, I guess it was a big influence on Sam Raimi in terms of like Evil Dead and his directing style, which honestly, if you watch it, you can definitely see it. But yeah, it feels like it would score that movie. And that movie is strange, kind of all over the place. I believe the score was very strange in that too. Like, there's a lot of weird jazzy sections, odd synths. A lot of the atmosphere is, I don't know, like haunting, I guess is the word. Like, this is more strange and alluring and haunting than it is terrifying. So in that regard, it's not like Portal. Portal is just flat out horrifying, at least to me. But this is, I don't know, just odd. It still draws you in no matter what they're doing, because you're just kind of curious as to what they're doing and trying to make sense of it, which is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube covered in fucking Astroglide. It's difficult. Though I gotta say, like, throughout all this confusion and weirdness and whatever the fuck it is, there's actually some really cool melodies in here. Like, Tower of Glory, City of Shame actually has like some really like pretty-ish melodies. Like, they're not like, you know, like, ooh, that's a giant hook, you could put a big clean vocal over there, because but they do have like a kind of hook or a melody to them, and it's something you can latch onto, which you'll be thankful for that, because a lot of this is just hard to latch onto in a sense. Like, it's kind of going everywhere at once. Again, the transitions are very unpredictable. There can be a lot of like strange interludes in the song and like weird instrumental passages that you just totally do not see coming. Like the end of Tower of Glory, City of Shame, it goes into this, I guess, breakdown, but it sounds like it's channel chasing and like a CB radio and a TV at the same time. So you get like these weird beats that kind of hit when the channel changes, and you get like a sample of like a commercial or like a TV show or just a radio broadcast. There's like kind of a noirish sense to all this when you kind of sift through all the chaotic weirdness that's on here. And I don't know, like the atmosphere, again, like I think it's mostly driven by that. It's very strange. Like, it's not flat out terrifying, well, at least for the most part, but it keeps you engaged with these like little strange bits here and there. And I have to say, some of the lead work on here is really good, and it's not just guitars, because we have some very interesting guests on here. We have Alex Skolnick of Testament. He's on here someplace. I couldn't think of which track, but I heard some really cool leads on there that were kind of jazz fusion-y, but also a little bit shreddy, so that might have been him. We also have Colin Marston of Krallis and Behold the Octopus, and he's probably doing some extra weird shit on here too, because that's kind of his forte. Trace Bruins from Mr. Bungle is on one of these tracks. Again, I'm not really sure which one, but yeah, no, he's kind of an easy fit. Snake from Voivod appears in the last track, Maximalist Scream, which is honestly one of the heaviest tracks, and kind of combines everything they do on this album with maybe even more ferocity. Like the riffs feel a little bit chunkier and heavier, but you also have the weird jazz interludes and I think trombones and maybe trumpets in there. Fucking wild. But Snake sounds like he's right at home, just kind of navigating the sea of weirdness. He has that very strange delivery anyway, and it honestly just fucking fits. But hands down, the strangest guest on here, and granted I knew he was on here because I saw this song was released as a single, was Kenny G. Yeah, the guy you hear in like every elevator and every dentist office is on the new Imperial Triumphant. Mercurius Gilded, and he lays down some fucking sick sax solos, which, I mean, with saxophones popping up in, you know, extreme metal here lately, it was bound to happen. It was gonna happen. I mean, I don't know how it happened. I think they kidnapped him. I think they just broke into his house, put a fucking bag over his head, set him in a fucking room with a saxophone and some mics. They didn't say a word while wearing their masks and garbs, and they pretty much just pointed at the instrument, and he was like, I'm gonna see my family again though, right? And they may or may not have nodded. But I gotta say, Kenny G laid down a fucking sick solo on there. It's a really awesome jazz solo, and honestly, one of the more like melodic and tuneful moments on here. Because again, like melody is very sparing. Like you'll get some moments where, you know, maybe the dissonant strumming kind of generates like an interesting hook. And there's a lot of stuff that just kind of reminds me of like a warped, twisted version of like a cinematic score for like, you know, 60s and early 70s horror movies. It has that vibe, despite the fact that there's a lot of just strange jazz on here, which you're thinking of a complete different era there. But honestly, it's one of those things that it just kind of works. And when it comes down to like probably the most accessible track on here, In the Pleasure of Their Company, it's for the most part an awesome jazz instrumental. Granted, it's like jazz on mescaline or, you know, dealer's choice on whatever hallucinogen you want to throw in there, but make sure it's a lot because it's a weird song. It starts off very, you know, just straightforward jazz. Like you get the good bouncy jazz bass line, the drums are kind of doing all these cool snare rolls, and even the guitars are kind of calmed down a little bit, and then it progressively kind of deconstructs itself and gets more and more weird. And You get this very interesting kind of breakdown towards the end of the song where it just gets very creepy. And honestly, I think this was the point where the album really got kind of dark, because, I mean, the early stuff on here, it's definitely dark. It's definitely strange, but there's this weird, alluring thing to it. Like, I don't quite get it, but it didn't completely freak me the fuck out. But when I got down to Bezem Naya, wow. This song is just pretty much nightmarish ambience and soundscapes. It's pretty horrifying. Like, honestly, I get like little bits of flashbacks from Hag Balbia. Oh, that fucking album. Oh god. Anyway, it's just this haunting dark track. There's barely any drums in it for like the first half of the track, or even maybe the first 2/3 of it. Like, you get to hear like some snare rolls in the background. The vocals are flat out horrifying. They threw every hellish filter they could possibly throw on there, and yeah, it's the creepiest fucking song on here. But it's the intensity of the song that really kind of got to me, because it starts off kind of calm, like you get like some chanted female vocals, and then slowly but surely you start hearing like these excerpts of someone possibly speaking Russian, but it sounds like they're pleading for their life, or slowly losing their mind in a haunted house or something. I don't know. But it gets progressively more and more intense, and then the nightmarish vocals come in and really kind of cement the whole vibe of the song. This album is hard to describe, and musically it is hard to latch onto. Like, when it comes down to like overly dissonant and like super avant-garde stuff, if it gets too strange, it kind of loses me after a while, and it was definitely doing that. But the thing that really got to me was the second that I found anything to latch onto, like a melody or a particular hook or like a particular rhythm, they would fuck with me. They would just add something strange to it just to weird it up, because they can't be fucking normal for like 5 fucking seconds on here. And granted, I know that's their thing. This is avant-garde. This is all about experimentation and creating whatever they're creating. But a couple of hooky moments in here would have probably helped me get through it, just because, again, this is just wall-to-wall insanity. This is the audio equivalent of a bad acid trip, and believe me, I know about those. But honestly, though, I couldn't help but to be impressed. Like, the musicianship is next level. The technical precision of this band is insane. The riff construction doesn't make a lick of fucking sense to me, but I'm not a musician. I feel like this was written for them and no one else, but if you get it, you're kind of part of the cool club that actually understands it, and I'm not there yet. This is still possibly too weird for me, but again, there's part of me that is really fucking impressed by this, and there's some actual moments in here that I really dig. That instrumental is absolutely amazing. In the pleasure of their company. I don't know if they're talking about the band, because they seem kind of creepy, but the song's actually fucking awesome, and I don't know, it kind of reminded me that I do like jazz. It's like the chase scene from Bullet, except, you know, acid. But overall, though, I'm gonna give this 3 stars. This is a pretty solid rating for me when it comes down to this. Like, I did enjoy this. It did draw me in. It's just confusing and just strange, and there's just not enough for me to latch onto, but at the same time, I was impressed at how far they fucking went with it, so I gotta kind of give them something there. This is such a strange, dark album. I haven't listened to much of their stuff, so I don't know how this stands up to other albums. I might actually have to go back and kind of like work my way backwards through their discography so I can get a hold of this, because I don't. But at the same time, this was actually pretty enjoyable, possibly more enjoyable than I thought it'd be. So yeah, if you're a fan of strange music, feeling confused and possibly terrified, hallucinogenics, jazz, hallucinogenics, and blackened death metal, I guess, definitely check this out. I mean, this band has a rep for being insanely strange. They have a rabid fan base of people that really apparently get their music. I'm not quite there yet, but this wasn't bad. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below. There will also be a link down there to thrallsmetal.com, where you can get one of our kick-ass shirts. As for Denver Death Fest, Again, I think we're waiting for some last minute things, and then we're going to eventually make an announcement, and hopefully with an announcement, we'll make, the announcement of like ticket prices and so on. This, however, will go on September 30th through October 2nd of this year in Denver, because this is Denver Death Fest, duh. And we are looking forward to being there. It should be a fucking great time. I have an inclination of a couple bands. I'm not allowed to announce them, but I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to running into you guys. Come up, say hi, have a beer, talk about how weird this fucking album is. I can't be the only one that thinks that. Either way, I'm sure it'll be a good time. And as always, thank you to everyone that has liked, subscribed, commented, all that shit. We love you guys. This is the awkward thank you part of the video. As always, I never quite know what to say, so I'm just gonna tell you, you guys are awesome. And you guys are the reason we keep going. So thank you so much for that. And with that, we will catch you later.